All right, it's 7 p.m., so we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
Christine, could we have the roll call, please?
Sure can. Michael Dougherty,
Here.
Ron Cabana,
Here.
Fred Shimura,
Here.
David Hosmer,
Here.
Glenn Lessig,
Here.
George McCoy,
Here.
David Fortin,
Here.
David Richardson,
Here.
Mark Chamber.
Here. Thank you. Next order of business would be to seat an alternate if necessary, and we have a full board tonight, so that will not be necessary. Next order of business is approval of the minutes of the March 10th, 2015 regular meeting.
We approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes, Chairman.
Go ahead, Dave.
I've got a couple of amendments I'd like to propose that I think would better reflect or help to reflect what took place at the last meeting. And one of them, there's a place that's during agenda item 5, continuing discussion, I said that I was informed that the $15,000 in tree wardens line item was removing the dangerous trees. I just think it's important to put in the question, which was, I asked what was the purpose of the tree warden line item and whether or not it was for removing trees or only marketing for removal. Then in the 9th paragraph, at the end of the second sentence, after the word counts, the minutes should document the questions I asked, which were, in which I could read them off, or I provided Christine with that when we read them off.
I think everybody has,
I mean, you have a copy, there's a copy over there. I'll read them all. My question was, under the column marked fiscal year 14-15, 6-month expended, why doesn't the actual expenditure reported equal roughly half the budgeted amount? I said I would understand if it was short by a 12th or something because the bills don't always come in regularly, but the amount reported in that column didn't seem close to half in nearly all the circumstances throughout the budget. My second question was, if the Board of Selectmen had transferred out $51,086 at the end of fiscal year 13-14 from the refuse hauling account, that had originally been funded at $142.5, why would the proposed funding be requested at $126.175? These questions were the ones that John Navarro answered in that paragraph, or as best he could. Following up on my second question about the transfer station, I asked why the reported 13-14 refuse hauling fiscal year 13-14 expended line item reported in the proposed budget was $159,272, considering that total was greater than the amount originally budgeted, and especially since $51,000 was transferred out at the end of the year. Those are the 3 questions I asked in that section, that portion of the agenda. Then after agenda item 8, after paragraph 3 of citizens' comments, Mrs. Woodland made some comments, and after that, I'm submitting the following amendment for consideration, which was various members of the board discussed the customary process of the Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen submitting to the Board of Finance proposed budgets above an amount that would be allowed by the town of Woodstock's governing ordinance. Budgets that the Board of Finance could not legally forward to town meeting for consideration. That's what we were talking about at that point. Members of the Board of Finance further commented on the practice of waiting for the Board of Finance to announce the final budgetary numbers prior to the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen beginning the final reviews of the proposed budgets. Rather, it was suggested by the board that the process of crafting a realistic and affordable budget should be an objective of the boards throughout the year. That's my amendments. Let's see.
Any other additions, amendments? David?
I've got 2 in I'll find the right spot here. On page 2, midway through the page, after Selectman Mitch E.P. Fields, that after that paragraph, there was a lengthy discussion on the insurance issue. And what I suggest as an amendment here is, Dave Richardson suggested that there could be savings in the area of health insurance, town hall employees across the town, $25,000 for those who participate, and $12,500 for a stipend for those who waive coverage, stating that this is excessive and more than the cost of private insurance, giving examples. He also pointed out significant costs above what the Board of Education is spending per employee. It was a lengthy discussion, but I think that summarizes it. And then after the last paragraph in section 5, Dave Richardson raised concerns of lack of communication with the public and the need for boards to get information out. And we had a brief discussion about that as well. So those are two things that amendments that I have.
Anything else? No further discussion. Can we get a motion to accept the amended?
So moved.
Second on that?
Second.
Got a motion, a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh, thank you.
Abstained? So carried. David, did you give,
I just
did,
did.
thank you. All right, next order of business is the suspense list from the tax collector. Linda?
I'll make a motion to approve the suspension list.
I'll second it.
Anyone have any questions for Linda before we?
Now we can have Linda.
George, you seconded?
I second.
It's already approved, it makes my job easier.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, I didn't want the suspense list to keep us in suspense, so.
That's right, that's right. Well, as you know, annually, I'm required by state statute to request your approval for the list that I submitted to you. These are all accounts that I feel are uncollectible at this time, for various reasons. This year we had $12,000 in real estate, which are some remnants of our tax sale from April of 2014. In other words, we did not get the total tax amount for the property that they owed at the time. We sold it for less. So we are allowed by state statute to write off the difference. And other than that, we just have 4 strips of land that are in town that are very tiny, and we are told now that we can write those off as well, because one property, both people are dead, another one are, people, it's landlocked, so nobody even deals with it. They're too little to tax sale, and therefore there's not much we can do with them. So every year, there will be those 4 pieces of land that will come up on the suspense list. As far as motor vehicle, I think it's interesting that our biggest reason for writing it off is that we have $4,500 in bills of people that have moved out of state. So what does that mean? I don't know, but everybody's moving out of state. And it's hard if somebody's living in Florida to collect a $100 bill up here in Connecticut. It's just not gonna do it. Personal property, there are only 3 on there this year, 3 companies. One is a trailer, actually, so we don't feel the 2 businesses aren't in business anymore, and they're not paying the bills. And one of the campers, it is located in the campgrounds, but the people haven't been around, and so therefore they're not gonna pay the bill here. And anyway, per your approval, these monies go into a suspense account, and they can always be paid at any time. If somebody walks in the door and wants to pay these bills, we can always accept that. What happens is we get a debit to the suspense account versus reducing the receivables. So,
I got a question.
yeah,
The 4 pieces of property
Yes.
will always be on the list?
Correct, every year.
There's no vehicle
Yep.
to move them off and just consider them non-taxable? This is it? Suspense list?
every year, those 4 pieces on the bottom of the real estate there, on that one where I itemized them all out, they will be on there every year. It's about $400, I think, roughly.
Just trying to understand the process.
Yep, because they're gonna bill every single year because they're still belong to those people that are out there and either deceased or whatever they are. Nobody wants the land, we certainly don't want to take it over as a town, et cetera, because then you have to pay for lawyers to transfer it and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Linda? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the suspense list. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. All right, we will move on to the presentation of budgets and revenues. Michael, would you care to start? The Board of Ed?
Not really, but okay. Good evening, gentlemen. Frank notified me early this afternoon that he wouldn't be able to make it due to obligation he has, so bear with me. Combined budget, gentlemen, we have not made any changes as of yet. Just for your information, tomorrow we have a finance subcommittee meeting. We also are meeting with the insurance, our liaison with the insurance company tomorrow to see what we can do for us. And then we also have a meeting on Thursday, finance subcommittee meeting, and also a full Board of Ed meeting on Thursday, which will then hopefully approve our reductions or whatever we need to do. Our request this year is $17,064,376 for the 15-16 budget, $572,610 over this year's budget, or a 3.47% increase. Oh, gee.
Sure you don't want Alan to do this for you?
What do you do?
He knows how to do it.
Areas of significant change, we have non-certified salaries, contract obligations, 2 part-time regular ed TAs hired during this year, 4.5 special ed TAs hired this year due to new students, 1 part-time special ed TA for a new student next year, and reinstate 6 regular ed TA positions and increase 2 part-timers that we added this year to next year to be full-time. That's an addition. Certified salaries, $162,485. Again, that's contract obligations and adding a math intervention teacher. Woodstock Academy regular ed tuition, $155,708. It's a 3.2% increase over this year's budget. It's based on a 1.94% increase from the academy. And right now, we have 4 additional students. We're in discussion with the academy now. They have 5, we have 4. We're still talking with Mr. Sanford and Mr. Campbell. So we'll know, that could be a difference of $12,000 in our favor, in their favor if it goes up to 5. So it's about $12,800 per student. Health insurance, an increase of $98,968 based on claims and premium estimates by the consultant, which we will be meeting tomorrow. And adding coverage for the added math intervention teacher and 8 teacher assistants.
Yes, are all those teacher assistants full-time?
The ones we want to add, the 8, yes, we have 2 part-time right now that we added this year. And we would take those 2 and add 6 more and be a total of 8 full-time teacher assistants.
So that $98,000 covers,
8 teachers assistants and 1 math intervention teacher.
so that's less than $10,000 per person.
Well, no, also the added increase from our regular increase in the insurance.
But at the meeting where Dr. Barron went through, if I could
Right.
just interrupt it, you know, when I asked the question, because the increase seemed relatively low, he talked about the shift to a high deductible plan. And that's what's driving the increase, because to your point, you know, that's a total increase with, you know, rising premiums on a year-over-year basis, plus adding all those folks. And the number I believe the number would be much higher if it didn't include the implementation of a high deductible.
Yeah, we put in this year, we negotiated a high.
So this is the first year for
Yes, this is the first year. Hopefully we'll see savings over the next few years. That's why people move to that type of. Technology, we added $71,000 to our technology, outsourced it, and we just put that here. We did save the salary from one teacher and moved into, and he is now a teacher where he was just the tech guru at the school. Now we hired Savage to do our technology services. Increase of all other accounts. This is, you know, it's snow removal, it's text, it's rubbish, it's testing, it's dues and fees, subs. All our other accounts, there's $34,277 in increases. Benefits, FICA, Medicare based on salaries, retirement, tuition reimbursement, and disability insurance, $24,391. Technology equipment, this is off our 5-year technology plan. This is, Karen, I'm gonna ask you, we spent $17,746, and the grant, we will get reimbursed by the grant.
It's about 23,000 from the grant.
If we spend it, so it'd be smart to spend this kind of money, so that's why it's in here. And then it's on our 5-year capital plan. Legal fees, we're in negotiations with the custodians and teacher assistants next year, so it'd be smart because we do want to discuss with the custodians and teachers, $10,000 fee for legal fees for that. Tuition for VOAG, Quinnebog Middle College, and adult $8,974. Electricity, increasing delivery charges, I think we're all feeling that pinch at home. Transportation, a reduction of $12,194 due to diesel fuel reduction, $3 versus $3.56 a gallon this year. Heat, we locked in our oil rates a couple months ago at $2.28.9 per gallon for next year. This year we're paying $3.16.9, well, $39,309 savings. Employment compensation, there were no layoffs planned for the next year. Savings of $44,056. Workman's comp, reduction due to a change in insurance carrier. The final assessment is due prior was paid in 14-15. This is what he's telling us we'll save next year, $58,549. Special education, tuition and services, net of program changes and students moving in and out of the district. Now, there's another slide at the end, and I will explain that to you when I get to it, but that was prior to some information we had just received. So we have a $62,118 savings next year, prior to what I'll explain to you in a minute, the last slide. Again, everything in our 15-16 budget for increases, $572,610, or 3.47% increase.
Excuse me, Mike?
Yes, sir.
That's with the new staff
That's with
included.
That's with the staff, yeah. 8 teachers assistants and 1 math intervention teacher.
Roughly, what's the cost for a teacher's assistant?
18?
18 plus health insurance.
18 plus health insurance.
So about 33.
That's best guess.
And the math intervention teacher,
That's what step we hired them at.
That one is lower because of a change is not returning, that was on a leave of absence, so I believe that was about 35,000.
We put out a volunteer.
Yeah, so, just to clarify, so you're saying some of that, what you're paying for the math intervention teacher is already in the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
so there's about, those additions and or whatever it is for the math intervention teacher, is about $300,000 that's in this budget.
I wouldn't say that much.
300 for what?
For the teacher and the assistants,
No.
that seems very high.
I
33.
believe it's,
8 times.
33 times 8 plus 35.
it's not.
It's not
306.
The difference is,
Well, you got to ensure the TAs, remember?
We do, the insurance is about 89,000 total between the teacher and the new teacher assistants. It's approximately, it's less than $200,000 for those positions.
Why is it only 89,000 when the average cost is 14.2?
A teacher assistant pays a different, we only cover single coverage for a teacher assistant, so it's less.
Okay.
We put out a volunteer retirement incentive for the teachers. One teacher did take the incentive. We'll be discussing that tomorrow at our meetings. We replace this teacher. Depending on what step we replace that, we can save between $10,000 and $15,000. If we do not replace the teacher, we will save approximately $60,000 to $65,000. But that is the discussions for the full finance subcommittee board, which will be meeting tomorrow, Thursday. And there are also, again, as we mentioned last time, a possible tuition charge for regular education students in pre-kindergarten. Again, the exact figure I cannot give you because we don't know what we would charge, and that has not been discussed yet, so we don't know what it would be. But depending on how many children, it could be a nice, just to give you a net guesstimate, $50,000, $40,000 to $50,000. Wrong way. We are currently addressing 3 potential outplacements and a significantly increased budget in the range of $150,000 to $175,000. You did, Michael, receive a letter from Frank, and I did question the letter myself because there was a, you know, if this happens. So I called Frank and I questioned him. I said, if, what does that word mean? You know, do we got a 10%? One of the students is a 90% chance they'll be outplaced. 2 of the other students, 50% chance they'll be outplaced. To be exact and tell you precisely, I cannot, but I question that myself because it is a significant amount of money. So one student, I would count on them being outplaced, and the other 2, flip a coin.
Are these DCF placements or are these?
No, they're not.
They're not DCF.
No.
And it could be outplaced this year, which can affect our budget
Correct,
for the
yeah.
remainder of the year.
Questions, gentlemen?
Just for reference, we did that at $18,000 a year, plus 35, plus the 89 for insurance. It's $264,000.
Well, I'm sure that'll be a question that'll come up tomorrow at our finance subcommittee meeting and
But that's like half, almost half of your
increase. It is something that we will most likely be discussing over the next 2 to 3 days.
Another question I would have when it comes down to these is, of course, the state reimbursement for excess cost and the impact it has on those 3 outplacements.
For this year, there is none, because a new outplacement now would not hit excess
Right.
costs between now and June. And next year, yes, they would hit excess costs, but until we know how much, et cetera, we can't
Right.
calculate
Right.
that.
But that would reduce that.
Yeah, we would include those calculations.
quite a bit.
Anyone else? Not? Thank you, Michael. And now we'll hear from Alan Walker on the general government budget.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that we hold all of our questions and for courtesy and to move the meeting along as quickly as possible, that we agree to hold our questions until after our presentation is complete.
Everybody on board with that?
Sure.
Okay. Need Mike to do that for you?
Yeah, I'm a pro now.
He's an expert now.
I really got a feel for it after a while, Mike.
It's all warmed up.
All right, we made a few changes since the last time we met. The budget constraints, of course, were the same. That didn't change. So our proposed 15-16 general government budget request is $5,420,539. proposed 15-16 total government budget is increased by 67,325. Last time I was talking to you, it was actually 127, something we cut $60,175 since we last talked to you about the budget, our proposed budget. So our proposed budget is $158,474 less than the 08-09 budget, just for frame of reference. Last year's budget, this current year's budget is $5,353,214. Proposed is $5,420,539. So it's a 67,325 increase, or 1.26%. Again, this is just a bar graph showing you that same, those numbers in bar graph form, and it's 150 to, this year's budget is still 158,470, that's what it was in 08-09. That doesn't come without increased costs. Our operating budget has increased significantly over that time. Our operating costs are at $4,922,411. So while our total costs haven't really risen, our total budget hasn't risen, our internal costs have. And you can also see our reduction of debt has declined over that time too. Again, our proposed budget is $5,420,539. Reduction of debt is $498,128. And our total operations budget is $4,922,411. So, as I said before, we've had increases over that time frame. It's a total of $410,843, or $51,305 per fiscal year increase. It's a 9.11% increase over that time frame, or a 1.14% average increase per fiscal year. So in this particular budget, we had, I'll just highlight our large increases. We had a lot of large increases when there are other places where we were able to save. Our wages, they increased by a total of $40,291. And the assessors budget, we have an increase of $6,977. The general government boards and commissions, our open space line item, one of their line items is increased by $5,000. Public safety boards and commissions, the Woodstock emergency medical line item has increased by $3,575. Highway department, an increase on dirt roads and roads of $45,204. As I mentioned last time, our total roads and dirt road budget for last year in the budget was $376,796, and we did one particular road project, just over 1.2 miles, which cost $490,693. So, you know, the cost of product and what we need to put into the roads is increasing. So that's our logic behind the increased number there. Our ice and snow removal budget, we asked to increase that $15,000. This particular year that we're in now, we've overspent our snow and ice removal budget by $21,732 so far this year. Public health, recreation, and boards and commissions, it's increased the libraries of $6,565. Again, this just shows that general government has 22% of the budget, redemption of debt is 2%, and the Board of Education 76%. Our capital improvements, same as I showed you last time, $10,850,650. This hasn't changed since we last looked at it. Again, I'll point out, the second page here, that we have the school roof project on there for $2,789,580. And all our other projects are on there that we're looking at for the future. So that's it for the look of that. Happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. You had, in the last budget, there was something in there for a line item for the towns and beaches. Was that removed?
Our increase was removed, that line item, we actually cut out of that total line item, $19,925, yes. The other, yeah.
You took 19,000 out, or that's
Out,
what's left?
yes. There's 5,000 left in that line item.
What was that for? Was that for infrastructure improvement or for salaries?
No, it was for salaries.
Salaries for lifeguards.
For lifeguards?
So will there be lifeguards this year?
No, there wasn't last year either.
Now, does that close the beach, or is it just swim at your own risk?
Swim at your own risk.
Okay.
And it gives us money for maintenance and that sort of thing.
Also gives us, doesn't it give us some money for some constables
Mm-hmm.
on the weekends?
Any other questions? Go ahead, David.
I've got, we talked about this at the
Dave, could I
last
ask you to
meeting.
speak up, please?
We talked about this at the last meeting, but since the last meeting, I had some more time and looked further into the insurance issue. And as most of you know, I learned that the actual stipend is $15,313, not $12,500. I also took the opportunity to go back and review the contracts, at least since 2000. The current contract language that is used to justify the stipend. The stipend is calculated using 50% of the total monthly health care premium for an employee who carries the health insurance. And will also include a monthly portion for the annual HSA deposit for a family plan. So it kind of distinguishes the HSA from the premium. The reason why, several reasons why that's important, but the way the stipend has been calculated, at least going back to 2009, has been basically half of a family plan. And then starting in 2013-14, it added $5,000 to that. I don't know exactly what an employee would be, insurance would be this year, because we don't have any, for good reason. But I would estimate that we are paying roughly $5,400 more per year per employee on the stipend than is contractually listed here. That would save us another $38,000. So I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. But it actually leads to a couple of other issues that are less of the common sense judgment on excess cost issue. And that is the stipend, as I pointed out last year, is more, last week or last meeting, is more than what it would cost for the premium for an employee. The premium and for any out-of-pocket expense if they chose to buy it. And in fact, for all of the employees who are taking the stipend, it actually pays them several $1,000s. In some cases, it could be as much as $8,000 or $9,000 more than it would cost to go out and buy insurance. That's an issue that I think Helen and the Board of Selectmen might want to discuss with the town attorney, because starting this year, under ACA, an employer can't incent an employee to leave the insurance program by paying the premium. Well, we are paying the premium. We're paying the premium and then some. And actually, by paying and then some, it raises more issues under FLSA and under Department of Labor regulations, because now we have a situation where, let's say Glenn and I have a similar job. I have the good fortune of having a wife that can cover me for my insurance, and he doesn't. We get about the same salary, except I get $18,000 a year more than Glenn does. So you run into a whole bunch of FLSA and Department of Labor issues, and I think you better discuss those with the town attorney. The $5,400 would help that situation, but it might get rid of the excess cost issue, but it won't get rid of the premium issue. And somebody needs to address that, because that's not just an issue of people looking at it and saying, holy cow, $15,000. Could be a bigger issue. I just wanted to make sure we got that out there, because that's a whole bunch more savings. The other thing that I would say along the lines of insurance, and I brought this up again the last time, and the response was, well, nobody wants to cooperate. If the town employees were rolled into the Board of Education program for insurance, we could save over $100,000 a year in cost. Now, people can say, well, what, this one doesn't care, or that one doesn't care. But $100,000 would mean $100,000 that's available to keep the lifeguards at the beaches, to fund the libraries, to pay for capital projects at the school. It's $100,000 of real money that could be made available. So everybody's got an interest in trying to find a way to bring these two things together and save the town $100,000 or more. And looking through these contracts, there's nothing in that contract for the town hall employees union that would prevent that from happening. The only thing that's stipulated in here is that the town will provide a high deductible plan. Well, the school happens to have a high deductible plan. There may be an issue about HSA contributions. That can be worked out after this contract runs out. But for the moment, the bulk of the cost could be significantly reduced. And we still have 3 months left to do it. So that's all I had to say.
And this stipend is a significant benefit to the people who take it. It hasn't been, we haven't changed how it's been calculated. It's been the same way it has been for, it was before I was there. When we look at like this year's budget, if we look at what we think we save, when the numbers you look at, who takes the stipend and who doesn't, we think we save about $23,000 over if everybody who took our current insurance took it. Like, it's not the $100,000 that you're saying, but it is some savings, and that's why, I assume that's why they did it back in back in the day. I took a look at insurance costs over the time period that I show up there. And back in 08, 09, we had, our insurance costs were $22,503 in the town hall. The ones for the Teamsters were $117,187. As we look at it in this year's budget, 15-16, the health insurance line item for the town hall is $283,320. The Teamsters is $202,800. So for the town hall, it's increased like 21.5%. The Teamsters is 42% increase. So the town halls is 60,817 higher than it was 8 years ago. What we did was we got to a period where we had double-digit inflation on our costs for insurance, and that's why we went in, I think 13, 14, and did the high deductible HSA type of plan, and it saved us quite a bit of money overall. And we do go out and with our insurance broker and try to get a better plan or lower cost plan with the same coverage whenever we can. Part of the reason why that HSA and the whole stipend is still in the budget is in the contract is because when we went and we negotiated and were able to have the union accepted the high deductible HSA plan, we also took away some other benefits from them, dental and vision, a reimbursement plan we took away, and we also gave them an exposure that they didn't previously have of about $2,000 deductible, out of pocket deductible. So we have worked at trying to control the costs, but yeah, I guess if we could get into the school, it would help us quite a bit.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I'm talking about $100,000, they pay $14,200 is their cost per employee for insurance. Ours is $25,000. So for the 8 people who take the insurance, that's $80,000. And the stipend, I could only get numbers back to 2010, 11. And they came out to similar numbers the way you said, that we were paying over $22,000 per employee for insurance.
We were.
The thing is that's what we were paying for family or employee and spouse. What the contract calls for and what is rational is employee only. Now, employee only did not cost $22,000 in 2010-11. It would have been not quite half that. That's what the calculation, based on the contract, should have been calculated on. That means we're overpaying by about $450 a month for every employee who's getting a stipend. Now, I know that went back a ways, but that doesn't make it right.
It's always been calculated.
Doesn't make it right. That's not what the language in the contract says. And it's not reasonable. That's why you get into these crazy numbers.
You can say it's unreasonable, but.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
believe me, most people are gonna say $15,000 is unreasonable. And in fact, I think when you get to talk to your lawyer and you take a look at ACA and Department of Labor issues, you're gonna find out it's unreasonable.
You can't you can't make it an incentive for people to switch.
That's right. Well, you can offer an incentive if people don't take it, but you are paying so much for people not to take the insurance. A 45-year-old could literally not take the insurance, go to Access Healthcare, buy the best gold plan, pay the premiums, pay the maximum out-of-pocket deductible, and stick $8 grand in their pocket.
Yeah, that's not realistic.
I know it's not
We
realistic.
have the numbers that we have, and I can't go into, it's all to do with age and that sort of thing, and your numbers don't match with those.
Alan,
numbers.
go on the internet.
It's not. the
It takes
internet I'm
about-
talking about.
Takes about 30 seconds to do it. 45-year-old would pay total, including maximum out of pocket, something around $8,800 a year. It's a very simple
That's-
thing to look
It's not the
at.
plan that we're in.
You're not doing that because you don't have employee only. You only have employees and family.
We only have employees.
You only have employees and spouse. The reason you don't have employee only is somebody would have to be insane to take employee-only insurance. Because they can put thousands of dollars in their pocket, even if they had to go out and buy the insurance themselves. That's what's crazy. And you gotta find a way to deal with it. Because it is costing the town, well, at least $150,000 because of this. If we insured all 15 employees in the town hall, if they were combined with the Board of Education plan, that would be $212,000. If we insured all 15 of them.
Dave,
We-
the only
we-
thing I'll, sorry.
Just with our current insurance plan, if we insured all 15 employees, it would cost us a total of $332,000 plus, based on the rates that we have.
Yeah, you're missing my point. And
No,
my
I'm not.
point, yes, you
No,
are,
no, I'm
because
not.
my point is that the Board of Education, if you work with them and you can bring these groups together,
That would be great.
it would be really great. We're saving way over $100,000 a year, and it's $100,000 a year that could be used for other things with no expense to anybody else.
And is it really true that every employee there only costs $14,000? That's before
The
they
ones
make
that are
any-
insured.
That's before they make any claims and that sort of thing.
No, that's their cost, $1,580,000 for 111 employees. So just divide the two numbers.
But again, I mean, the only thing I wanted to say, Dave, is just, we went through this last January on the self-insurance side. So it could be a savings of as much as $100,000, but we sat here last January when we had the insurance folks in talking about, where we were running over. So the only thing I want to just throw out is that, in some years you'll get a savings, but by virtue of being self-insured, if the claims are high, you can still be upside down, regardless of whether they're in this plan or in the school plan. So it's just, I don't want people to walk away thinking that if we switch it, it's an automatic 100. In a year that everybody has the same health rate, yes. In a year that you have a cancer, you have somebody's in an auto accident, whatever it might be, that all goes out the window by virtue of one large claim.
Actually, it doesn't. The stop loss has a $50,000 deductible, and each case has a $35,000 maximum. So the only way it would cost more than what our savings would be is if what you had was, if everybody ended up having to spend $32,000 a year for health insurance in that particular year, because you wouldn't quite break the cap, and you wouldn't kick in the stop loss. And the impact on the stop loss of adding 8 people would be insignificant, as you know.
Well, I think we all understand that the insurance is something that needs to be looked into much deeper, but we can sit here and discuss insurance all night long.
We have both the chair of the Board of Ed and our first selectman. Could we ask you to form a subcommittee? I'm sure we would be willing to join you if you wanted us to or not, but could we ask you to form a committee and start to look at whether or not it's reasonable to bring these two groups together? Because I think Mr. Richardson does raise a very good point that this money could be available to pay for teacher savings. I know that didn't come out of your mouth, but it could be, for whatever purpose. And if we can save that money as a town, why aren't we doing that?
I think it's a great idea. Where the $100,000 figure came from, I have no idea. I doubt it'd be that high. That's just a personal opinion after dealing with insurance for the past year and a half at the school level. $100 grand seems like a lot of money to be saved at that time, but I'd be happy to sit with Alan and discuss it. I'll be meeting with the insurance, our liaison tomorrow. I can bring that up with them, see where we can go, and I'll get in contact with Alan and maybe we can come together. But not to discourage you, Dave, but $100,000 is a lot of money. And if we did save 100 this year, and we had a lot of claims this year, it can go up 300 next year. So as you said, Mr. Schember, it can vary as we go year to year with insurance.
The $100,000, Mike, comes from the fact that what we're doing right now is insuring a group of 8 people, and they're paying $25,000 per insured employee versus what you're doing under your system for 110 people paying $14,200. That's where the definitive savings comes from.
True, but what the insurance adjuster would do is then look at claims over the past 18 months. I'm not sure what they look over, but they look back to see what the claims were, and that's how they base that, whatever the 25,000 was. We based our 14,000 on our past year and a half of claims, so that's why we might have less claims than the town hall has. That's why our claim, our figure might be lower. I'll be happy to
Right,
sit with
but
Alan.
you two guys are working
buy me
on
a coffee and-
completely different systems, so it's not even related. I mean, what they're doing is like you or I went out and had a small company. We had 8 employees, and we decided we were gonna go out and get insurance for them. That's what they're doing, basically.
Well, like I say, tomorrow we meet with him, we'll discuss it, and then I'll sit down with Alan by the end of the week.
Any other issues? Just quickly.
I'm listening to debate about, whether or not we can save money or not, but putting all that aside for a minute, if we have 7 people at $18,000, we're spending $126,000 in stipend costs. For 7 people.
That's not true.
They only get 15,000.
Okay, let me do it that way.
It's 105,000.
15,000, 1, 2.
It's 105,000.
Okay, $105,000. That's a lot of money.
And if those people all took the insurance, it would be even more money.
Well, we could still, I don't wish to argue with you, that's not my point.
I'm just
My
saying,
point-
I'm just
I hear
making
you.
my point too.
Yeah, I hear you, I heard your point.
I heard your point.
And the truth of the matter is customarily, if you go outside and you work in an organization, you might get $1,000 or $1,500. You're not gonna get 15,000, and it's a lot of money. That's all I'm saying. George?
If I'm understanding that right, we all know that this is a year where your budgets are gonna get very little increase because of the statutory limits. And I think bottom line is that you got one gentleman here that's done some homework. He thinks he may have found a way for you to be able to do more with less. I think that's what it boils down to, and I wholeheartedly back anything you guys do in that direction.
Anyone else?
This has been gone over quite a while ago, and it had been looked into combining the two groups for insurance quite a while ago. And one of the biggest problems was the union contracts. The schools are under 2 or 3 different unions, town halls do under a different union, and also the Teamsters with the highway department. Each one of those has their own health insurance plan. And they're all a little different, and trying to get all of these guys to come up and agree with the same health insurance plan was a big problem back then, which is why it was never instigated. And I'm sure that you're gonna have the same problem again when you try to do it again, because of the coverage of different guys. The Teamsters have a fantastic health insurance plan. I don't know what the town hall has, and then the self-insured bit with the schools. You're dealing with what the union members are gonna wanna vote for.
Yeah, the Teamsters part of it wasn't involved there. It was just the 15 employees. in the
It
town.
doesn't make any difference, if you're trying to take and, get everybody under the same insurance program, you gotta take into consideration the Teamsters.
No, you don't. You can do town hall employees separately, or separate union and a contract with town hall employees. The paragraph for insurance is right there. There's nothing in there that limits it from being combined. The only
What
thing
Dave is trying to
stipulates-
say, Dave, is that when we negotiate the contract, the union is comparing the Teamsters contract and insurance with what we're negotiating with. That's the point he's trying to make.
I understand the point he's trying to make, Mitch. The contract right here only stipulates that it's a high deductible plan, period. That's all it says. It doesn't restrict you from using high deductible plan A, B, or C. And therefore, you could get together and do it for the town hall employees. The Teamsters, you don't want to touch.
So,
All right, now that we've beat that to death, are there any other issues involving the general town government budget that you have a question on for Mr. Walker this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is revenues. You have a copy of the estimated revenues in front of you, and if you have any questions, Donna can assist us with those. Is there anything that you would like to add right now, Donna, or would you?
I know Dave had a question about the Prop 46 calculation, and I did forward his question to the town attorney about transportation, whether it was allowable or not, and I think he gave us the answer pretty plain and clear. Does anyone have a question on that?
Well, I think he has a problem because he's not being consistent, but that's a side issue and for $3,000. I don't have enough water left.
Last year, the Board of Finance actually took and did their own calculation for the first time. And just because it was a change of treasurer, and last year he approved everything that the Board of Finance came up with. And this year, he approved all of what I came up with. So, that being said, I did kind of separate things out for you so you could see what the uncollected revenue is. I gave you the Prop 46 calculation with the notarized plan list. And then I gave you some scenarios of the information that we had available to us as of Friday, what a proposed mill rate how it could affect the taxpayers. But since then, the Board of Education has sent a memo, which could change our Prop 46 calculation again. And that is something you guys need to talk about tonight, how you want to deal with that.
I would suggest on that issue is that until the Board of Ed has a definitive number, including adjustments for into added cost to the town, it's gonna be an added cost to the town, and hopefully all of this works out before we get to the final budget, because then at that point, we gotta deal with whatever we have. There's not much you can do with it right now.
No. The only thing that we can do at this time is base our budget projections on the information that we currently have in front of us. And if we look at those numbers, the revenue versus the additional requests. The Board of Ed is $572,610. The town government is $67,325, which is a grand total of $639,935. And according to our revenue sheet, we have $134,998 at a maximum available to us. So no matter how we look at this, somewhere along the lines is gonna have to be a cut of $500,000 out of the proposed budgets.
And the other thing that we don't know yet, and won't know, is what the state's gonna do.
That's correct, and that's as volatile as you can get. That they could drop a bomb on us at any time as far as what they're gonna cut back on what they give us. There's discussions right now out there about the automobile taxes. There's discussions out there about cutting different funds. There's people up in arms over the amount of money that comes from the Pequot Fund, the Hegan Pequot Fund, as far as monies to the towns and how that's divvied up. Anybody that's read the paper recently, the town of Allentown, which hosts the Patchogue State Forest, which takes up about 2/3 of the land in the town of Allentown, is raising quite a ruckus over the monies that they receive from the pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes for state-owned properties. If they in fact adjust that figure that they use for the town of Allentown, somebody's gonna have to pay for it. And I can tell you right now, they're not gonna be knocking on the big cities' doors to get that money. It's gonna be towns like Woodstock that are gonna suffer. So we got, as I said at the previous meeting, there's a lot of work to be done on the budget. How we're gonna get there right now, I don't know.
But I might add to what you said, Mike. The education cost sharing grant, if the legislature allows, the governor, it'll be flat funded through 2017. But as our operating costs continue to go up, we're continually going backwards. The state reimbursement continues to go down. The state's backing off on a whole bunch of items, including the amount that we can take back because of decreasing enrollment from, is it 3,000 now currently?
It's 3,000 per student.
And they're looking at going to 6,000, which is another way of them cutting their reimbursements. Last paying for it. Now they're talking about higher income taxes. That always starts with talking about people in Fairfield County, but it eventually works its way across the whole spectrum of the state. Cigarette taxes, gas taxes, all the conventional sin taxes, tolls on 395 for anybody who might be commuting out of the state. And they're pretty desperate. They're desperate enough they want to put in 2 or 3 more casinos to stop the people who are trying to go to casino closer to home. So I think the state is in dire straits, and we're not very far away from it. We're getting harmed by it, I should say.
Anyone else have anything to add?
We have to take and set our crop 46 limits fairly soon, so that, what's our next meeting gonna be for what?
The actual next meeting will be the public hearing on
And we
April
have
7th.
to have that all taken care of by the time we go to the public hearing.
We should have a figure to work with, but it's not cast in stone because the final budget won't have to be set until after we get the input from the public.
That's correct. But once we know what the max limit is, then we can work out something to, something concrete.
Something to send it back to work on.
That's correct.
And that's why I suggest at this time that we go by the numbers
That's
that we
right.
currently have in front of us.
That's correct. What have been submitted to us.
So based on that, we're talking roughly a maximum increase across both budgets of $135,000.
Yep.
That's if we go to the limit.
If we go to the limit, yes.
So do we need a motion now to do that, or?
We have to have something to present at the public hearing.
But I'd like to move to advance the combined budget of $21,979,978 for a .2 mil increase to referendum.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? Donna?
Really shouldn't make note of a mill increase, that cannot really happen
Yeah, that's
until
not
after a
the-
referendum. That could potentially be the mill increase, but you shouldn't make reference to that.
Yeah, that shouldn't be
That's all.
included in the motion. The
Not
actual
until
bill.
after the
We
referendum.
did last year, but that's fine, I'll amend my motion, but that's the way it was worded last year on
Was it?
March
Well,
24th.
it shouldn't have been.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
May or may not impact. I'm just looking at this, $138,000. No, never mind. I did the math in my head, it worked.
That's good. I'm glad our numbers work.
You know, I have a question.
Go ahead, Dave.
Looking under the Prop 46 calculations, there is no allowance for special ed increase. But yet, from what the letter that was submitted to us by Dr. Barron, he says there will be an increase. So, are we gonna consider that increase as part of the Proposition 46 calculations or not?
At this time, we can only go by what we currently have. And if in fact there is an adjustment that's going to be made,
It's gotta be made then soon.
it has to be made before we set the final budget. And that's something that we all have to agree to now as to, if we're gonna give them a number to go forward, we have to agree that if there is an increase allotted to us due to the increase in special education, that monies would be tacked on to the Board of Ed budget.
And that has to be done before the public hearing.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, that can be done when we set the final budget.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be, it isn't done until the meeting after the
Right.
public hearing. And we had no clue what that is. I mean, there's 62,000 to the good right now.
Right.
If they've got 3 kids with full reimbursement.
Could be over $200,000 in one shot.
No, actually, it can't be. It shouldn't be more than about 100 because the cutoff is $54,000. And then everything over that is reimbursed by at least 80%.
Right.
So you can't get more than about 120.
Well, it's still a major number when you throw it up against 134.
Yeah. The whole thing.
Dave?
Yeah, just for my own understanding.
There is a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we're in discussion.
It's discussion in motion. It's a question for clarity for me. The motion that's put out doesn't guarantee that we're going to disperse the $134,000.
That's correct.
It's just to be considered.
That's
brought to the town. Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other discussion on that?
Well, should the, based on that then, should the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen modify their budgets to pull them in line?
Yes.
With an expected 134,000?
Yes.
I have another motion ready to clarify that.
All right.
But
I'll
yeah,
wait till- I'll wait till going through.
that would be the next thing. If we decide that this is the number that we're going to work with at this time, then the next thing would be to decide how we're gonna work with that.
Okay.
I'll stop.
And for the record, I second the motion as amended.
He had put it on the .2.
Yeah, we took off the .2 mil.
Oh, okay.
Can't talk about mills.
That's something that won't be determined until we have the final numbers regardless, so. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second to go forward to set the maximum increase right now, according to Prop 46, which stands at this time, $134,998. Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Now, we have to direct the boards as to how we would like to see that divvied up.
Do you want to stay at the 0.75, 0.25 that we have had in the past, or change that?
Are you looking for my personal opinion, or did you want to make a motion?
I can make the motion right now based on 75%, 25%, but I wanted, I guess, clarification from the chair whether that's probably.
Basically, what we're looking for is how we're gonna divvy this up. And just as a point of fact, right now, it's 75.5 and 24.5% is the split currently.
Can I make the motion with the percentage, or does it have to be
You-
a dollar amount?
Well, we're talking 134,998, so you can make it either way, and they would have to adjust their budgets accordingly.
And you said the Board of Ed was 74.5 or 75?
At this time, it's 75.5%.
I'd like to move to approve the new budget for the Board of Education at 75.5%. And the new Board of Selectmen budget at 24.5%.
Okay, now we gotta do it quick.
Of the maximum allowable.
All right,
And I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that?
I think that's just what we've always historically done, right?
Historically, that is in fact what we have done, yes. No discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. So, now we will figure out exactly what amount that is. I wanna rate these things.
You got it?
Got it?
I think so.
Yeah?
101, 923, 49 is 75.5%.
Is it 101?
101, 923.49 is 75.5% of $134,998.
Right, but I think we would want to give them the percentage, 75.5% of the 21,979,978.
Huh?
No.
No,
That's just the increase.
Well, I mean, again, it's the same thing. I mean, what the increase on, what their base was last year, I mean, that's what's getting to the same.
Well, what's been slowly happening here over time is that percentage has been shifting. It used to be 72-28, not that long ago. And they need a target that says how much they can increase.
What's the general numbers?
What number did you come up with again?
101.
101, 924 would be the Board of Ed.
Who's around it, huh?
Yes. And that leaves $33,074 for the town side.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
$33,074. So that would be a number to work towards. Everybody all set with that? Got the numbers?
Here you go.
All right, so what we have, the motion would be to allocate monies available with proposed increase of $134,998 as follows. Board of Education will get $101,924. General Government will get $33,074. New budget for the Board of Education would be $16,593,690. And the Board of Selectmen would be $5,386,288. Which would give us a total budget of $21,979,978. Now we need to adopt a call for public hearing. And I actually have that here, so I will read it. What's that? Yeah, you know. Town of Woodstock, notice of public hearing, April 7th, 2015, 7 p.m., Woodstock Town Hall. The Board of Finance of the Town of Woodstock will hold a public hearing at Woodstock Town Hall on Tuesday, April 7th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in accordance with Section 7-344 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Itemized estimates of expenditures of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Education will be presented, and the Board of Finance will hear all persons who wish to be heard in regard to any appropriations which they are desirous that the Board of Finance shall recommend or reject for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2016. Dated at Woodstock, Connecticut, this 24th day of March, 2015. Michael Doherty, Chairman, Woodstock Board of Finance. Can I get a motion to accept that?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on that?
I didn't see who seconded.
Frank,
Thank you,
Frank
Frank.
Moore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So carried. All right, we have a call for public hearing. Old business, we had listed bylaws, but we had decided that until the budget season is over, we would stand down on that for the time being. Any other old business? Any new business? All right, we'll open it up to citizens' participation. I would ask that you please limit it to 3 minutes per person if possible. And would you please come up forward so that we can all hear you better and state your name and address?
Michelle Waz, 14 Hampshire Road in Woodstock. I just wanted to address something that came up at our original budget presentation of the Board of Education. And I just think it's a misunderstanding that I wanted to clarify with regard to our staffing and declining enrollment. I didn't want to say anything at the last meeting because I didn't have the actual statistics in front of me. So I had Dr. Barron and Karen pull me the numbers from 2008 through 2015 for enrollment. And our enrollment has gone down by 6% and our certified staff has gone down by 7%. So it correlates with each other. So the assumption that we're not taking care of attrition. So if somebody retires, we don't replace them. Somebody leaves and goes to a new school district, we don't replace them. So the ratio has stayed the same over the years, even though we do have a decline in enrollment. And with that, I just want to point out that we've lost the gifted and talented program at the middle school, the life skills program at the middle school, the librarian at the elementary school, a classroom teacher at the elementary school, and district-wide, we've lost the language arts coordinator. And because of that loss, that's driving part of the need for having some TAs being reinitiated, remembering that we eliminated all but one of our regular teaching assistants last year. So putting them back in is kind of a restoration of getting back to normal. And I understand from what just happened that it's probably not gonna happen this year, but I want everybody to understand why it was back in the budget. We had teachers come to us and say, we can't get our reading assessments that we do quarterly done. We can't get the help the kids need in individual sessions in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, specifically done. We didn't just put those back in there because we thought, hey, it's a good idea. And we had teachers come to us and ask for the reinstatement, and they gave us some very good reasons to do so. So I just wanted to clarify that from the last meeting. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bernie?
Bernie St. Jean from North Woodstock, Connecticut. I heard people talk about landlocked properties in the town of Woodstock. As far as I know, when we had problems with landlocked properties before, they said that there isn't any such thing as a landlocked property in the state of Connecticut. There's a right-of-way somewhere. And that's what we found out. There was right-of-ways to these properties that you know, we were involved with. So just to let you know.
Preston Schultz, New Sweden Road. I've got a question. You know, I run a business that's about the size of the town hall. So I know HSAs and HRAs, and what I don't understand is it appears to me that somebody's taken the money that's put aside for an HSA and writing it as a check to the employee that doesn't take the health care insurance. Now, in my world of HSAs, you know, it's usually managed by a bank. It's either coupled to a MasterCard, a debit card, or a check. And it has to be complemented with a receipt for health care. So if you give somebody $5,000 for to meet their deductibles, and the other person that's on the health care plan has, you know, he doesn't reach his single limit deductible or his family limit deductible, he would not be compensated for that money that he does. It goes back to the town.
No.
That's the way HSA works. You gotta have a receipt for it.
No,
Yeah. You have to have a receipt.
you're partially right.
Well, which part do you wanna tell me I'm wrong? If you have to have a
Once,
receipt.
once
you-
the employer puts the money into an HSA account, it becomes the employee's money. It can never be touched again.
Well,
So it
here's
doesn't
the
go back to
other
the town.
thing.
Could we please address the board?
Here's the
Sorry.
other thing. In HSA, what happens with us is you have a bank managing it, and you go 3 months, the people put their stuff in, the bank covers it and sends us a bill. So we don't prepay them. The bank sends you the bill, and you do it. And every 3 months, and every 3 months, and the end of the year, you clean up. It's not like we hand them $6,000 at the beginning of the year. Thanks. Oh, I'd also like to note, who's not taking the health care? It's not a HIPAA question, it's public knowledge. Who's declining the coverage and taking the stipends?
That's something you would have to check with the town hall on. I don't have that information.
They're here.
I don't know if someone cares to answer that at this time, or probably be better if you're that interested, stop by and see someone in the town hall and they can answer that. I don't think it's necessary that we throw it out for everybody. All we need to know is the numbers. Anyone else?
I don't know that, you know, if a citizen asks a question, like he just asked, that you can just say, well, we're not gonna tell you, you can go to the town hall to find out, because it is a public meeting.
Well, I'm not gonna tell them because I don't have the answer.
You don't, but other people in the room do.
And
that's why it's a
they
little
wish
tricky.
not to answer that here, so.
Could you defer to the board of selectmen or some other group that could answer it versus our group?
I did.
Yeah.
And the first selectman had said he would rather answer that.
I did not say anything.
Well, he indicated that you didn't wish to answer that publicly.
I'm not
On
gonna
the
reach
same
out.
token, he may not have the.
He may not have that information yet, but I'm sure that if you stop by the town hall,
And I'll
somebody,
also say, it's a public meeting, yes, and it's not a public meeting that, we're necessarily gonna have the answers to that kind of question.
that's correct. Anyone else?
Just quickly, I'm
Michael?
pretty sure that's a HIPAA law, because you are telling people who's not taking the insurance, and by doing that, you're telling people who are taking the insurance. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, Alan will find out for sure, but I.
Yeah, well, that's, like I said, the best way to address that would be through the town hall, and that's something, the actual individuals involved does not need to be discussed here. If someone wants to know how many do, how many don't, we have the answers to that right here in this room. But as far as who or whatever, it may not be proper at all to disclose that, and if it is, it doesn't need to be disclosed in public. Anyone else? All right, we'll go on to correspondence and announcements. Under correspondence, do you have a Vicky Desperance here? No? Okay. She did send an email to the town hall here through Donna Stefanik regarding her wishes to see that the funding is continued for the libraries. I have a copy of that letter available if anybody would like to see it.
The libraries in the school, in the elementary school.
Yes, that's correct.
Actually, that letter should have gone to the Board of Education, because we have no jurisdiction.
No, we don't, but it was sent to us, so I'm just relaying that. It will be passed on to the Board of Ed to consider within their budget. Other announcements, the public hearing, as was just scheduled, will be April 7th. And our final budget will be set, one way or another, on the 21st. Hopefully, we will have more information by that time, and we will have a firm number to work with, something that taxpayers can vote on. If no one else has anything?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.